Hello and welcome to another session in English language, and in this session we'll be looking at register on French words. We'll be looking at another aspect called article writing, and lastly we'll then look at figures of speech. But before all of these, let us review the previous lesson. Welcome back. Like I said earlier, we are going to review our lesson on first register on French words that have French origin. They're also going to look into article writing, and lastly we're going to look at figures of speech. Okay, so let's begin with French words, meaning that we're going to be looking at words in this lesson that have a French origin. Okay, we're going to be looking at words that have French origin. For instance, we have French is associated with the country France. Okay, so anyone from France is French, not Francien or whatever it is called. Somebody from Gambia is Gambian. Okay, so somebody from France is French. So we want to look at words that we could trace their origin back to France. So let's begin. We know that in the world today, we cannot shove French language aside. It's one of the major languages spoken all over the world. It's an European language, okay, that developed out of Latin. I know somebody is just hearing that for the first time, but yes, you have to pay attention to this, that French is one of the most spoken language in the world, and it has its origin developed out of Latin. Okay, don't forget that. Alright, so let's consider the following expressions as they are used in English language today, though they have their origin traced back to France. Okay, so we have a la carte. La carte. It refers to the part of a menu where each dish is listed with its price. I know sometimes you've been to restaurants or an outlet where they sell food. I mean, where you can do dinner and they actually give you cuisines in French. Right? Each dish has its price. We call that a la carte. Then we also have à la mode, and that means something that is fashionable. Then we have what you call the bourgeoisie, right? The bourgeoisie. Okay, so we have what we call the bourgeoisie, and that refers to what you call the middle class. Remember, we have what you call the upper class, we have the middle class, and we have the lower class. Okay, so the middle class in France, they are called the bourgeoisie. Okay, and if you did a bit of comprehensive history, you would have studied a system of government known as feudalism. Under that, we have what we call the bourgeoisie. But we are not teaching history of government. So let's get back to what we're saying. So we have the bourgeoisie, and that's the middle class. Then we have the chef. Okay, that refers to what's the senior cook. Okay, the word chef refers to what's the senior cook. Okay, the word chef refers to the senior cook. Alright, then we have communique. Right, so anytime you say there is a communique, it means there is an official announcement. Okay, there is an official announcement. Then we have the word déjà vu. Alright, déjà vu means seen before. Déjà vu means seen before. Then we have fiance, who happens to be a man who is engaged to be married. We have fiance. Then we have what we call gouge, right? Gouge means something that is clumsy, socially, or inept. Then we have répondez s'il vous plaît. Répondez s'il vous plaît. Répondez s'il vous plaît means that it's always written at the back of invitations, formal invitations like weddings, invitations for weddings, dinners. They always write RSVP. It's an abbreviation of the expression répondez s'il vous plaît, and it means please reply when needed. Okay, at least you can always give a reply to such invitation if you have certain reservations. Alright, so I think that is enough for today on the register on French words. Déjà vu, fiance, gauche, répondez s'il vous plaît, communique, bourgeoisie, à la carte. So these are words that have their origin traced back to France. I remember French language actually can trace its development to Latin. So we are moving on to another important aspect, which is what? Articles. Writing articles. And writing articles is an integral part of essay writing. Writing articles is an integral part of what? Essay writing. So, and eventually articles are expository essays. Remember, we have types of essays. Let me just cast our mind back to the types of essays. Okay, let's see the types of what essays that we have. We have what you call the narrative essay. We have what you call the descriptive essay. We have what you call the argumentative essay. Now we are dealing with what you call the expository essay. Alright, the expository essay. Now, so article is one of what we call the what? Expository essay. Now, we said an expository essay is one that requires you to explain bit by bit the process, or explain something in details. It's gotten from the word exposition. Okay, exposition. If you do an expose, means to give details in, or step by step. Okay, so we are looking at how do we explain a process, how do you explain a thing. It requires you to know more. All right, write in great deal what you know on this thing. And so if you don't have a good knowledge of that thing, you cannot write an expository essay. In other words, we are saying that expository essay requires some form of descriptive, essay. That is description. You have to be very good at describing. Okay? You have to be very good at describing. That's what we call expository essay. Now, let's look at a sample on that, on articles. Now, there have been various articles in your newspaper discussing the rise in price of goods. So, this is the question. Write your contribution to the discussion and suggest ways to help curb the trend. Now, the question is, there has been a rise in the prices of what? Goods. Right, in the country, and an article was published in the newspaper, and then you are asked to write your contribution to the discussion and suggest ways to what? Curb such trend. So let's now look into this. So right here, let's look at what we are required to do. Now, number one, you have to organize your thoughts in what? Paragraphs. So paragraphing is an integral part of writing, expository essay, or what you call articles. Okay, you must learn to write in paragraphs. Some students just, or candidates, write without paragraphing, and please, examination bodies, reward or they measure or evaluate students in this area, especially in essay writing. You must learn to write in paragraphs. Okay, and minimum your essay should contain 4 paragraphs. Your minimum paragraph should be 4 in an essay. Please don't write 3 paragraphs, especially when you are asked to write not less than 450 words. So it's believed that at least on an average you have 100 words on each paragraph. Okay, so learn to write using paragraphs. And first, how do you do this? You give your observation. Okay, remember we said you are writing as an article in response to your own view about what happened due to the increase in the prices of goods, and you are trying to suggest ways to help curb that trend. So give us your observation on what you know about the subject. Okay, then you have to explain the problem. That's the next step to go. Explain the problem. So we are looking at how much do you understand about demand and supply? How much do you understand about the increase in the price of what commodities? What are the indices for measuring that? What are the determinants of what the rise in price of what commodities? So these, among many things, we added. Then we look at the first major result. Who are the recipients of the increase in the rise in price? Here we talk about the determinants and the causes. Okay. So then under the second major result, we look at here we could talk about the first recipient. There could be the producer. So let's look at the effect it has on them. Then we look at the second recipient. It could be the customers, or what you call the consumers. Okay, we look at how does the rise in price affect the producers and affect also the consumers. Remember, in economics you've been taught that we respond to increase in price. All right, then lastly we'll look at what the need to solve the problem, because we have to convince the government that if this problem is not solved, it could be a major challenge. Okay, so we have to suggest to the government ways of coping this trend of increase in price. Should we establish price control agencies that will be responsible? All of your suggestions will be required at this session. All right, and lastly we are looking at figures of speech. But before that, if you can follow this step by step, clearly defined explanation on expository essay, that you are required to explain that thing or write a description of a particular process fully, then you'll know that a good knowledge of that subject is required. So you don't delve into essay writing without considering the topic you are asked to write, so that you don't get stuck in between. Now let's move on to figures of speech. Now figure of speech is just one of the literary devices we use in English language, but today our focus is going to be on just a few of them. So let's start with the first literary device, and that is simile. Right, let's start with the first literary device, that's simile. Simile is a figure of speech or literary device where two things of identical or similar qualities are compared. Okay, so it has to do with what? Comparison. Okay, it has to do with what? Comparison. But remember, we don't compare dissimilar things, we compare similar things. Okay, we don't compare is similar. We compare what similar, things. Okay, so compare things that are similar or things that are or identical. Okay, things that are similar or identical, and we do that using like or as. We do that using like or as. For an example here, we said Peter is as cunning as a snake. Is as cunning as a snake. Okay, so we looked at the comparison there. We have Peter, alright, being compared with a snake. So, but we said, what are we comparing? We are comparing how cunning Peter is. Okay, so the similar thing they share is that Peter is animate, the snake is also what? Animate. Okay, so we are comparing how cunning they are. Then we said Jane is like an angel. Okay, Jane is like an angel. So who is Jane and who is an angel? They are both beings, alright? But here we are making use of what? Like. Remember I told you make use of as or like as the case may be in the area of simile. So simile is just a literary device used to compare identical similar things with the use of like or as. Then we have what we call metaphor. Now under the metaphor we know that we have is another literary device that compares, but this time around is not indirect as in the case of the simile. It's a direct comparison and we do not use like or as. Okay, so we simply say Peter is a snake. Oh my God, somebody saying yes, he's a snake. So when you see somebody's cunningness and the person is like it's a snake, just call the person directly it's a snake. That's metaphorical. Alright, Jane is an angel. The way she sings or the way she treats people, she is an angel. And I know you've heard people call people angels before, not because they are angels or they bear the name angel, or because they have a similar or identical quality like that of what? An angel. Then we have the word personification. Now personification has to do with the personification is a literary device that attributes animate qualities to inanimate objects. Okay, it attributes animate quality to inanimate objects. And when we say the word animate, we mean things that have life. Okay, so we are attributing living qualities or characteristics to non-living things. For instance, look at the example used here. The sun smiled at me. We know that the sun is inanimate, but we are using an animate characteristic, smiled. Okay, so the sun smiled at me, meaning the sun was shining, right? It was at its brightest. Alright, so then we have another. The trees are dancing. The trees are dancing in the wind. So when the wind is blowing and the trees are moving, we say the trees are dancing. That is personification. Also, we have what we call euphemism. Euphemism is simply presenting an unpleasant experience in a palatable way. Okay, presenting an unpleasant experience in a palatable way. So when you present something that is unpleasant and you do that in a way that seems acceptable, we say you've done what is called euphemism, right? And most of the time is to alleviate the pain or sad experience that comes with such. For instance, the old man has kicked the bucket. Now it's another way of saying somebody has died. Okay, so instead of saying man died, somebody else could, get into a state of unconsciousness. You simply say the man has kicked the bucket. Or you can simply put it this way, that you don't say king has died, you say the king has joined his ancestors. That's another way to break the news on the death of a royal. Right? The king has joined his ancestors. Alright? So that's euphemism. Then we have irony. Irony is a literary device that gives the opposite in meaning of the original intention of the speaker. Okay, so when you have something in mind and you say otherwise, that is opposite of what you intend saying, we call that irony. For instance, what a pretty state of affairs. Now if you say this, what you actually mean is that things are bad. It's a bad situation. Okay, but the way you said it is opposite. Say, what a pretty state of what? Affairs. But the original intention on your heart is that thing is a bad situation. Then we have what we call paradox. Paradox is simply a literary device that appears to be absurd, that is stupid or contradictory, but on close examination it makes a whole lot of sense or conveys an idea or truth. I'll say that again. Paradox is a statement which at first looks stupid, looks absurd, looks like does not make sense or contradictory, but on the other hand, if you look closer or pay attention, you will see some elements of what? Truth. I'll give an example here. Attack is the best form of defense. Attack is the best form of defense. Now, how do you explain this? Now, you can say attack is the best form of defense. Now, to you, it's absurd. How can you say attack is the best form of defense? Defense is defense, attack is attack. But truly, if you want to defend, you don't defend, let's say, for instance, those of you who watch football or what you call soccer in American English, you notice that, okay, like the Gambian national team, you are called the Scorpions. Okay? Now, and congratulations, Gambians, on your qualification for the first time to the African Nations Cup 2021. And I hope to see you there, and see how far you can go. But, Gambia has never qualified for, FIFA World Cup. Now, but that's not an issue. So, if you watch the Scorpions, we are saying that the best way they could defend any team is to attack them. The best form of any defense is attack. You keep putting pressure on your opponent, they can't also come all out because they are careful. Because they are very careful. Alright? So we are saying attack. So that's why we said at first it may not make sense, but if you look at it critically, it's truly the best form of what? Defense. Not just playing all defenders in the team. You will lose that game. Okay? Play your best team, but remember, attack is the best form of what? Defense. Then we have pun. Pun is a literary device that plays on words. Okay? That plays on words. Okay? For instance, the dead drunkard was laid bare on his beer. Okay? The dead drunkard was laid bare on his beer. Alright? We have two words, beer on his beer. Okay? One has to do with alcohol, liquor, and the other has to do with something else. So we are using two words that sound similar but have different meanings. Okay? As a way of humor. Okay? Then lastly, we have what we call onomatopoeia. Alright? Onomatopoeia has to do with the formation of words in imitating an actual sound. The formation of words imitating an actual sound. I'll give you an example. The hiss of a snake. When the snake moves, you hear things like that's hissing. So that's really what we are saying. So there's a formation of a particular, the meow of a cat. Okay, there are different sounds animals actually make. So these are things we are considering for today. Thank you for joining us in this lesson. To refresh your memory on what we just discussed today and recall all that was taught in this lesson, I would advise and love that you take the test that will appear on your screen.